So I remember one time my dad started listening to country music. My dad's not from the country, he's from West Philly. But at the time, which was something like 2003 or 2004, I just remember going over his house all the time, and just like the country music channel would be on, it was just sort of like a channel that would like play country music 24/7, and he would just be like sitting there listening to it. And at the time, I mean, it seemed like he knew like all the songs that would come on, like he could name like a few country acts, and it just seems like he'd memorized a lot of it. And like I'm sure if you asked him at the time, he would have said something like, "Hey, I like this. This is good music. Toby Keith, baby." But that phase only seemed to last about like 3 months. And it's been nearly 20 years, and I don't think he's listened to one country song since then. And I don't even think he remembers the name of one act or like one song or even Toby Keith, to be frank. It just seems to have left no impression on him whatsoever. And maybe you'd think like, maybe he's just like pushing the boundaries, and maybe he won't be completely into country, but maybe there'll be a song that sticks around and, he'll just sort of listen to occasionally. Nope. Seems like he just took nothing from it. And look, that's not knocking country music. I mean, if you're into that sort of thing, that's, of course that's fine. But it just apparently left no impression on my dad whatsoever. Seems like the second he stopped putting any effort into listening to the music, like he just immediately forgot everything about it. There's a funny sort of related thing that happens with the human gut microbiome, which is that you have to like continually keep taking probiotics in order for them to stick around in your digestive system. Like the second you stop taking them, they'll just immediately die off and be overtaken by your normal flora. And what's funny is that you probably have the bacteria that you're taking in probiotic form, like in your system already. Like you probably don't need to be taking probiotics. It's just that different variables, like your diet, various chemicals, your genetics, they affect which kind of bacteria are going to be prominent in your system. In all actuality, the far more powerful way to alter your microbiome is just to alter your diet and lifestyle. Like you're not sort of building something new from the outside in. You're sort of like finding what the problem was and then fixing it to sort of restore normality. By the way, if you're wondering where I've been for the past year and a half, I do have an update video planned. It's just, I gained like 15 pounds and I'm a little self-conscious about that. And I am trying to sort of lose a few of those before I make my return. But I definitely will make like a proper update video, me appearing in my garage, and you can see I put all these like new weird shadow figures on my wall or whatever. That's coming soon, but back to this video. So there's a tendency in our culture to think that the only way to solve a problem is to like build or work your way out of it. And of course that's not a wrong assumption to make all the time. Lots of things take work. Making this YouTube video is a lot of work. Though I am being driven to make this video because these are ideas that I feel strongly about, so the work kind of does do itself in a way. But when we see people who don't have friends, we tend to think things like, hey, you gotta work for friends if you want them, buddy. If you don't have friends, it's your fault for not working hard enough to make them. You're choosing to isolate yourself because you don't like working. Like, it feels like there's almost this sort of like religious fervor around the idea of having to work hard or go through some kind of hardship to earn the things that you have. And if you don't, then on some level you don't deserve to have them. And why shouldn't friends be included in the list of things that you have to work for, right? I think it would be helpful going forward to define exactly what a friend is. And by defining what it is, I'm going to tell you what it's absolutely not. A friend is not someone that you feel you have to constantly work to keep as a friend for fear that they're just going to walk out of your life if you don't. If you're not able to talk to somebody for a year and then just randomly call them and have a gut-busting conversation with them as if no time had passed at all, I got news for you, all right? They weren't your friend in the first place. Like my friend Jim, I haven't talked to him in probably like 2 years because he lives on the other side of the country and has his own family or whatever. But it doesn't matter, like I can call him right now and within 10 minutes we'll both be laughing our asses off at some like middle school memory. That's what true connection is. That's what a friend is. No amount of time is ever going to corrode a real, genuine connection. Maybe it picks up a few cobwebs over time, but there's no amount of cobwebs that an hour-long conversation cannot shake off immediately. A good friendship maintains itself. It's always there if you want to indulge. It's like a classic movie that never gets old. I don't ever remember working to maintain my friendship with Jim. I just hung out with him all the time because we just made each other laugh and we just, naturally get along together really well. I felt compelled to keep interacting with him because it's like I just like him. It wasn't out of a sense of obligation to like retain him as a friend. I mean, that's not to say that you should go like 2 years without calling your friends. Like, I really should call him and see how he's doing. But I'm just saying, like, an old friendship, it isn't something that you have to rebuild necessarily. It's just something that you sort of dust off every once in a while if you need to. Another thing is that to me, like, when I think of the phrase making friends, there's something weird about it, you know? Like, that feels like it's almost forcing the issue. Like, it's the sort of the friendship equivalent of taking probiotics. Like, people that if you just stop talking to them for a week would suddenly become strangers. Like, you're taking something that should be spontaneous and natural and turning it into work. Like, friends are something I have to make myself now. Again, our culture just has this obsession with having to work for everything, that a friend is something that you have to, like, earn or win over. But to me, turning friendship into work just completely defeats the purpose for me. To me, friends are more like crushes. Like, you don't really have to force yourself to have a crush on someone. You could just kind of sort of know a person, hear them talk about stuff, share a few interests with them. Maybe you're on a similar path in life. You see their mannerisms, and there's just something about them that you just like. Something about their essence that just clicks with you. You know, something that would sort of compel you to approach them. You think, I could probably be friends with this person. The only sort of work involved in getting to be friends with someone like that is just sort of having the gusto to just like approach them in the first place to see if they like you too. And a lot of the time, surprisingly, the people that are your type, that you are their type. Like, the people that you want to be friends with a lot of the time are thinking the same thing about you. Birds of a feather really do flock together. What you want a lot of the time wants you too. Like, the world really is beautiful like that. Nature knows what it's doing. It wouldn't lead you astray. So why isn't this thing that is totally natural and spontaneous and fun happening all the time? Well, in case you haven't noticed, we're living in a social dystopia. Like, there's nothing natural at all about this modern world that we're living in. I made a video a while ago talking about this, and if you want to watch it, I'll link it in the description or something. But the gist of it is that much like a word is meaningless outside the context of a sentence, people are meaningless outside of their communities, aka social context. Without communities, we're basically just words without a sentence. And you cannot form friend crushes on words without a sentence, because you have no way to understand who they are. They're just faceless nobodies. You're never going to get a friendship crush on a faceless nobody walking down the street. You got to be a somebody first for anybody to care. And in order to be a somebody, you need to fit in among other somebodies to form a somebody sentence within a somebody paragraph as part of a somebody book on a shelf on a somebody library. By the way, this video isn't all just whining. Like, I do have an idea at the end for a solution. We've gone our entire human history always belonging to a larger community where everyone knew who everyone else was. This thing where your neighbors are complete strangers is completely brand new to the human condition. Being a faceless nobody to the people you're surrounded with isn't natural. We have always been a somebody among a community of other somebodies as a birthright. This modern social condition is like if somebody sucked up all the oxygen out of the atmosphere and made it so that you can only breathe by continually using oxygen tanks. That's how unnatural this situation is. There's videos giving advice saying things like, go to meetup.com. But see, the thing about Meetup is that you go from no context to a bad context. The context being, we're all here because we're lonely and have no friends, so our goal should be to just make friends with each other, right? It seems like the obvious solution. But if everyone's goal is to make friends, then you're going to end up with a friendship probiotic situation. Because it's framing people in a way that is turning them into objects to be conquered and won over and used as props as part of your self-improvement arc. And people usually don't respond well to being treated like props. It's like, instead of having a friendship crush on someone and feeling compelled to go talk to them, you feel more like, if I don't start talking to people, I'm going to be alone and bored for the rest of my life, so I better go to meetup.com and work for friends or else. Doesn't matter who, just make friends with somebody. That's a one-way ticket to friendship probiotics, I promise you. Another thing you hear is like, just talk to random people at the supermarket or something. And look, I actually do this all the time. Like, I am not averse to making chit-chat with strangers. In fact, I used to work as a cashier, and I was always having friendly conversations with the customers. Probably more than the average person would, actually. Like, I actually really love having conversations with people. Like, I know I say I have social anxiety all the time on here, but I really do wonder sometimes if I'm not secretly like a social butterfly. The thing about talking with strangers is that these conversations don't ever go further than chit-chat. Like, you could talk with somebody for 10 minutes, and then you just never talk to them again in your life, unless they're a regular customer. But once you stop working there or they stop coming in, like, you don't ever see them again. Because look, making friends is not comparable to like going for a jog every day to lose weight. It requires cooperation between people. Like, you can't just schmooze people into being your friend like a psychopath. There has to be something there between the two of you to begin with. Friends can't ever be framed as self-improvement because it's not something that's entirely up to you. This isn't a problem that hyper-individualism is ever going to solve. It's a thing that needs to happen spontaneously and naturally. It's very easy to find videos on YouTube about how to make friends, but if you look for videos like how I made friends, they're much more difficult to find. And it's usually people talking about how they met friends through other friends, or how they were approached by somebody at some party that they were invited to. You never ever hear success stories where people talk about how they went to the supermarket and just started talking to some random person and now they're best friends, or even about how they made friends at meetup.com. Most of the reviews of Meetup seem to be people saying that it just doesn't work. I actually really do feel like 90% of the people that have friends just made them when they were like in school or something, and made other friends through the friends that they already had. But the thing about a good social context is that it just makes everything sort of click into place. For instance, when I was in high school, I was in this alternative education program that only had like 5 to 10 students per class, and I was allowed to do creative stuff in place of my schoolwork for school credit. And I made a bunch of these like movies with my classmates, and they showed the movies to all the classes in the school. So I had sort of a reputation there. People knew who I was, and since people knew who I was and I felt like I belonged, I had absolutely zero issues going up to the new kids in class and greeting them and like asking them questions and getting to know them and stuff. I felt secure in doing that because I was a somebody there. I actually really loved when we would get a new student in class. To me, this is what we have to find out how to capture. How do we, as a society, instead of telling people to just approach hundreds of strangers, recreate the conditions of high school and adulthood? Or maybe not even high school necessarily, but how do we make it so that we're always a somebody among other somebodies as a default, instead of a nobody without context as a default in adulthood? How do we restore the oxygen in the atmosphere instead of having to rely on these parasocial oxygen masks? How do we pull off a social life total recall? I don't really know what the answer is going to be here. I don't think it's feasible to just go back in time and disconnect the internet. I think we're going to have to work with what we have. I think a good example, though, are like stand-up comedians. I always hear them talk about how they have the most amazing friendships, and like I just love listening to the conversations that they have with each other, like during podcasts. That's what adult friendship should look like. But how do we get there? Actually, I've been thinking that YouTube would be a great way to make friends. Like, the beautiful thing about YouTube is that you can sort of upload your thoughts, what you do in a day, your disposition in life, and people can kind of find you and sort of form like a parasocial relationship with you without having to sort of do the labor of like asking you questions and stuff and like risking you rejecting them. But if everybody were doing that, like if it were the norm to sort of upload your thoughts and feelings, then we could all be finding like huge amounts of people that we click with and getting to know them without actually having to like meet them IRL first. Like, parasocial relationships, for all the flack they get, are actually really great. Like, I really wish I could meet some of you in real life, both like other YouTubers and sort of commenters and stuff, or even if you're just lurking. After all, birds of a feather, right? The only problem with parasocial relationships in YouTube is that the people that you feel like you can click with live thousands of miles away most of the time. But I was thinking, like, maybe YouTube could have like a local section of their website where you only get videos from people within like 20 miles of you, where you can get to know people through videos and they can get to know you through yours and sort of form parasocial relationships with each other, maybe without either of you even knowing that you're watching each other. And you can sort of become a somebody to each other from the comfort and safety of your bedroom. And since you're close already, you can just like actually go meet each other IRL if you want. It wouldn't just be huge YouTubers that are unreachable either. Like, I've noticed recently that YouTube has been pushing a lot of these like smaller vlog channels. If it could push sort of like small local vlog channels that are relevant to you, where you could sort of like comment and they would actually respond and stuff, that would be ideal. Maybe we could use this new AI tech to act as sort of like a matchmaker. And the more people that are uploading videos, the better your chances of finding someone that clicks with you locally. It would just be like regular YouTube, but local. Like, you're not scouting out potential friends necessarily, but you're just sort of listening to people you find interesting, but they just happen to be close and aren't like unreachably large. It's not an individual site that you have to like re-upload your videos to. It just takes YouTubers that already exist on the regular site and sort of categorizes them by geographical proximity. Once you press the local option, of course you could always opt out of it if you want to. I mean, this doesn't even have to be YouTube necessarily. Like, maybe you could make an app based on that idea. The Parasocial to IRL Friends Pipeline app. Maybe there is an app like that already. I don't know. I guess sometimes people say things like, oh, what you see online isn't really a true representation of the person. You're just seeing what they want you to see. And first of all, if you think people aren't curating themselves in real life just as much as they do online, like, I think you're really kind of ignoring reality. And secondly, like, I don't know where this notion that it's just like impossible to be yourself on YouTube or online came from. Like, this is me, you know? Like, if we met in real life, this is who you'd be talking to, even despite the fact that this video was edited. my true essence is still coming through, you know? I've actually asked people I know in real life if this is the case, and they've said that it is. I'm not playing a character at all right now. I mean, I know I said in another YouTube video that it was a performance, but I think I was wrong about that, you know? And to some degree, this is a performance, but I still think I was kind of wrong about that, you know? Like, this is still me. I mean, if you're playing a character or something, or maybe you're just being ironic, maybe you have a point. But, you know, I don't see why it's philosophically impossible to just come on here and be yourself like you would be in real life. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But, I don't know. Maybe you have some ideas about how we fix this problem, too. But, yeah, those are my thoughts. Thanks for watching. See you next time.